And now you're starting to hear people who like would always kind of, you know, never, ever, ever even think about like voting any other way, but the traditional New York way are like, I have to now vote another way because it's not safe for me anymore.
Right. What amazes me is the amount of people who don't understand the left is not here to help you. They want to completely take over and change our society into something completely different that I guarantee you will not like. Now, how in the world could I possibly know this? I don't know, from looking at history, whether it's Russia, China, North Korea, Cuba, it never ends well. The left always promises this utopia where we can live in peace and harmony, but all that really happens is mass incarceration and persecution of the people. Of course, the question then becomes, if it's so bad in these places, how in the world was it allowed to get there? And the answer is basically what you're seeing in our big blue leftist cities right now, where they allow violence and crime to run rampant that the people actually beg to be put under authoritarian control. And that, of course, is what you're seeing happening in New York City. And what I want to talk about today is this interesting exchange on the Joe Rogan Experience, where the people of New York are actually waking up to this idea and possibly willing to go another way.
See, the thing with New York, I agree. And New York now, it never felt that way. My whole life there. But recently, New York has become a place, still great, still my home city, but the problems that you would always hear about, like, you know, people would say, oh, it's conspiracy, or like you're watching that shit on the news. Now you're actually seeing it. Okay. So for, 39 years, I never had one altercation, not one altercation on the subway or in the streets with any kind of mentally unwell person in New York. There's a lot of crazy people, but like they're not really a deal. Mm-hmm. 3 times in the past year, I've been physically assaulted or like had to defend myself against a mentally deranged homeless person. One time I was walking in the Comedy Cellar, some guy came at me and like just put his elbow in my chest, and I had to push him, and he fell over a pile of garbage. I just had to push him as hard as I can, where I'm like, I never dealt with that. And now you're starting to hear people who like would always kind of, never, ever, ever even think about like voting any other way, but the traditional New York way are like, I have to now vote another way because it's not safe for me anymore.
Right. So how often do we hear these crazy stories out of New York City of people being pushed onto subway tracks, right? People being attacked randomly while on the subway, women being raped while on the subway. It sounds like you really have to stay off the subway in New York City. But these are all stories we hear about. But as he's mentioning, as a local, as a native, he's like, hey, we hear about this, but we never really experienced it until recently, meaning something is changing. It is becoming so rampant, so lawless that even the locals are starting to notice, okay? And as I mentioned, this is by design. This is how the left actually seizes power. They want people to be afraid. But hopefully before it gets to that point, the voters will change their mind because no one is coming to save them.
There's crime, and the cops, I feel bad, man. The cops, if I was a lot of my friends are NYPD. They're like, dude, we wanna police. I can't do anything. My boy was telling me a story. He's like, we were outside the projects, right? He goes, and we see this drug dealer selling drugs, right? We see him, he's selling drugs, and we know he's right there selling drugs. We arrest him, out, right away, out. He goes, then we saw him selling drugs to what we look like a 10-year-old kid. So we arrest him. We arrest this kid. We were seeing a child walk with a bag of drugs, arrest him, back out. He goes, so what do you want me to do then?
Right.
I can't keep doing this.
Why do you think they're doing that? Living in New York City, why do you think they're letting people out like right away? There's no cash bail, right?
Right. I was told that's by my police friends. I was told that's what it is. It's that law is the big thing. It's like this bail law to get out. He said, which doesn't help anyone because why
was it made?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. It's not well received though. Nobody really. You're gonna in New York now. Even the people who are wearing like 40 masks during COVID are like, I don't want my city's like being destroyed now. So now I don't know if that changes in an election. If people will vote, I don't know. But I'm like, I see it now for the first time ever. I'm like fully seeing people injecting heroin. It's wild.
So they're asking the question I've already answered. Why do you think this is happening? Why are they doing no cash bail where criminals are arrested and let right back out on the streets immediately? Because it's the leftist ideology, right? It's always the victim who's at fault. It's never the person actually perpetrated it, right? There's always a tons of excuses. Oh, they had a hard upbringing. They didn't have a father in the home. They're addicted to drugs. Their mother was mean to them. All these excuses to protect the criminals. And all of it, as I mentioned, is because they want the populace to feel unsafe. And you can hear the frustration there described by the police. Why even do anything, right? We run into this problem all the time. If you're going to arrest somebody and they're going to be let out right away and then not tried, not charged, etc., why go through the trouble? Why not just stand around, make your paycheck, and then go home? There's no point in doing your job. And that, of course, leads to a rise in crime. So not only do you have the main factor of criminals know they're not going to get arrested, they know nothing's going to happen to them. Now they basically can do whatever they want because no one's even going to try to stop them anymore because it's completely pointless.
Even my father, who was like, I grew up in New York, my father was like, I remember New York in the 70s and 80s, which was like nuts. Like, he was like, you would get assaulted. Everybody had AIDS. He was like, this is scarier in New York. I'm more scared of this New York. Because, he said, in the old New York, you knew which neighborhoods, don't go in that neighborhood. And then you're okay. But this New York, I don't know where that shit's coming from. It's going to pop out of anywhere at any time. And you'll have people that will hear this and be like, you're exaggerating. It's not true. I'm telling you, it's true.
They just haven't run into it yet.
I'm telling you, dude, it's true. And when you are friends with the police, the cops, it's true.
Well, when you saw those illegal immigrants that came here that attacked the police officer and they were out on jail the next day, flashing the bird at cameras.
Yep.
Like, that's crazy. You got someone who illegally enters from another country, assaults a police officer, and they're right back out in the street.
Well, and by the way, nobody, like any race or religion, doesn't want that in New York.
Right.
Like, nobody wants that. Like, that's not a thing that's like, that nobody wants that at all. So, like, I don't know what it's going to take to change. I mean, I will tell you that, like, a lot of New Yorkers blame it on Mayor Bloomberg. Like, he's the most hated, ex-Mayor Bloomberg. He's the most hated person.
Really? More so than the last guy? Than de Blasio?
I'm sorry, de Blasio is what I meant to say. I'm sorry, not Bloomberg. De Blasio is what I meant to say. I'm sorry. Right. Mayor de Blasio is hated, like, he's hated more than Satan. Like, people, I was at a gym once in Park Slope, Brooklyn. He was on the elliptical, and he has a security guard standing by him. He was the acting mayor, and I mean, people were just fucking trashing him as they walked by. Just, I mean, outwardly trashing him. Because nobody gives a shit. We were like, the one guy was like, you fucking suck. And by the way, that's a girl's machine. That's a girl's machine.
Elliptical's a girl's machine?
That's what they said. And I was like, it's not.
Nobody's ever said that to me.
Yeah. They said it's a girl's.
I use elliptical machines.
I mean, dude, they wouldn't say it to you. But they said it was a girl's machine. And I saw one of the security guards go like this. He did that little laugh. And then, but people hate him and they blame a lot of what's happened in New York on him.
Well, he was definitely a fool.
Sure.
He was a weird fool.
Yeah, de Blasio was a complete disaster, but at the same time, the people of New York City voted for that. You get what you vote for, and there's enough uninformed or crazy leftists out there to keep booing up this process, right? They keep seeing the same thing happening over and over and over again. Leftists take over a city, crime rises. Then you have the people, of course, wake up a little bit, have a backlash, and people like Rudy Giuliani then come in and save the day. It always takes someone from the right to make those hard decisions that people actually want so they can, of course, stay safe in their homes. Now, this is one of the reasons why I think Donald Trump will win. We actually just had a very interesting poll come out from Kaplan Strategies, and it's showing that Donald Trump now has a 15-point lead in Michigan. So right here you can see Michigan, Trump 51, Biden 36. Now, Michigan, of course, is a big union state, right? Auto workers unite and all that noise. So one of the reasons for this jump in Trump's polling here could, of course, be the workers, recognizing that the good environment is not created by the left, but with Donald Trump. And a lot of people don't really associate Donald Trump with the right necessarily. They associate Donald Trump with job creation and economic growth and stability. And don't forget that Michigan also has a very large Muslim population, and they are turning against Joe Biden in droves because of his support, supposed, of Israel against Hamas. But that's Joe Biden's own problem. We're going to let him figure that one out. But a lot of the left are really actually clinging to this idea that, the abortion issue is actually going to save the Democrats. Well, I came across this interesting segment from CNN.
What do the polls now say about how important the abortion issue could be in voting?
Yeah, so, all right, you see this 14-point lead for Joe Biden, but will abortion be important for votes for folks in their voting patterns? So in our new CNN poll, abortion affect your vote for major offices? Candidates must share your views Only 23%, John, only 23% of Americans say that candidates must share your views on abortion. So even if they agree with Joe Biden, it doesn't necessarily mean they vote for him. And more than that, John, when we look at the top issues, the nation's most urgent issues, look where abortion is on this list. It's all the way down at 5%. The issues that are at the top of this list are immigration and the economy, which, of course, are Donald Trump's best issues.
There you have it. So even though the majority of this country supports abortion in some form, it is not going to be a saving grace for the Democrats, because less than a quarter of the nation actually feels you have to agree with them on that issue in order for you to vote for them. But overall, as a nation, this only has 5% as being the most important issue. Donald Trump is clearly by far way ahead of Joe Biden on the most important issues of the day, which of course are immigration and the economy. So mix in the whole public safety aspect, and that's why I believe that Donald Trump will win in a landslide come November. So thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and as usual, stay safe out there, people, because they're coming after you.